Hello beautiful human and welcome to my channel. My name is Natasha and I'm quite new to YouTube. I'm posting videos daily and pretty much just dumping my unfiltered thoughts. But today I wanted to speak about something that is really important to me, as getting sober was the best thing I've ever done by far. And I've done the steps once and I'm starting them again. So I thought what I can do here on this YouTube channel is share information about each step and also my progress, if anyone's interested in hearing. But since I did the 12 steps for the first time, I had a complete transformation of character, and yeah, it's amazing. So I want to share that with anybody that's interested in Alcoholics Anonymous or working the 12-step program for addiction recovery. Now this might be a bit of a long-winded video because I've got 3 books here that I'm going to read from, a passage from the big book, the little red book, and the 12 steps and 12 traditions. So I'll be reading a few pages from each, just simply because when I first became interested in Alcoholics Anonymous, I was still in denial that I was an alcoholic, but I was intrigued by what it was all about because I saw lots of people in meetings that looked really healthy and well, and they were making lots of money and just living their lives, you know, getting married, doing things they couldn't do when they were in addiction. So it really opened my eyes to seeing what the 12 steps can bring to people's recovery. And yeah, I've been to America and I've gone to recovery clubs there, and it's just incredible how many people are working this program and are like family to me now. So yeah, in only 18 months, I'm 18 months sober. So yeah, the reason I'm making this video is because when I first started going to meetings, I wanted to know more about the 12 steps and I couldn't find much on YouTube, and I didn't want to invest in the literature yet. So I thought I'd make a video here with the literature that I've got and also maybe my thoughts on step 1 and yeah, how I feel it reflects on my journey. So a bit of story time involved. So let's start with this little blue one, 12 and 12 steps and 12 traditions. Okay. So firstly, it says, step 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Who cares to admit complete defeat? Admission of powerlessness is the first step in liberation. Relation of humility to sobriety, mental obsession plus physical allergy. Why must every AA hit bottom? Wow. So firstly, what's popping out at me there is admitting that you've got a problem, which I didn't do for the first few months. I was so in denial. So step 1 is admitting that you need help and just admitting that your life is out of control and you know you can't stop at 1 drink, you have a problem with alcohol, and just saying, like, admitting. Step 1 is admitting, okay, I've got a problem. Second thing is recognizing the mental obsession plus the physical allergy. So not only is it a mental obsession, which is kind of OCD in a way, when you've got an addiction, you keep thinking about the thing and, oh, I need more, I need to get that thing, and it's just a mental obsession, which I think is the worst part of it. And then a physical allergy to alcohol means the way that you act when you're drunk. So if you are an alcoholic or debating it, it's probably that you black out, or you're nasty to people, or you sleep with people that you wouldn't if you were sober, and just generally maybe not a nice person to be around. We have to really be honest and look in the mirror and just be like, okay, I've effed my life up and all I've been doing is drinking for the past how many years. When I came into recovery, I was in debt, I was overweight, I had a string of unsuccessful relationships, I didn't really have any close friends, I didn't spend much time with my family, wasn't really sure what I wanted to do in career, I was just kind of floating from job to job. It was really hard to look in the mirror and say, okay, my life is unmanageable, I need help. And that's admitting you're powerless. That's step one. If you can do that, step one done, kind of. You have to work the steps with the sponsor. Okay, so now we're going on to more information about step one. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Who cares to admit complete defeat? Practically no one. Of course, every natural instinct cries out against the idea of personal powerlessness. It is truly awful to admit that, glass in hand, we have warped our mind into such obsession for destructive drinking that only act of providence can remove it from us. No other kind of bankruptcy is like this one, alcohol. Now, become the rapacious creator bleeds us of all self-sufficiency and all will to resist its demands. Once this stark fact is accepted, our bankruptcy as going human concerns is complete. So yeah, as you come into the program, you will probably be labeled as being spiritually bankrupt, and that will make sense to you as time goes on. You might be actually bankrupt as well, and you might be bankrupt in the form of relationships. There's lots of different ways to be bankrupt, but alcohol bankrupts the alcoholic. But upon entering AA, we soon take quite another view of this absolute humiliation. We perceive that only through utter defeat are we able to take our first steps towards liberation and strength. Our admissions of personal powerlessness finally turn out to be firm bedrock upon which happy and purposeful lives may be built. Once you admit, your life will already start to improve. I promise. It's just, this program, it's spiritual, it's magical, and it's the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my entire life. And I'm sure thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of people in AA will tell you the same. We know that little good can come to any alcoholic who joins AA unless he has first accepted his devastating weakness and all its consequences. Until he so humbles himself, his sobriety, if any, will be precarious. Of real happiness he will find none at all, proved beyond doubt, an immense experience. This is one of the facts of AA life. The principle that we shall find no enduring strength until we admit complete defeat is the main taproot from which our whole society has sprung and flowered. So yeah, it's a very humbling experience, and it's painful. It really does hurt to look in the mirror and see that you've made a mess of your life and yourself, and that is the bravest thing that anybody could do, and most people can't do. And that's why they stay in miserable lives, miserable situations, and they stay trapped in addiction because they're afraid to look in the mirror and admit, because that kills our ego. It really humbles us, and it hurts to say we're not in a great place, we're weak and we're powerless and we need help. But it's the best thing you'll ever do. When we first challenged to admit defeat, most of us revolted. We had approached AA expecting to be taught self-confidence. Then we had been told that so far as alcohol is concerned, self-confidence was no good whatsoever. In fact, it was a total liability. Our sponsors declared that we were the victims of a mental obsession too subtly powerful that no amount of human willpower could break it. There was, they said, no such thing as the personal consequence, of this compulsion by the unaided will. Restlessly, deepening our dilemma, our sponsors pointed out in our increasing sensitivity to alcohol, an allergy they called it. The tyrant alcohol wielded a double-edged sword over us. First, we were smitten by an insane urge that condemned us to go on drinking, and then by an allergy of the body that ensured we would ultimately destroy ourselves in the process. Few indeed were those who, so assailed, had ever won through the single-handed combat. It was a statistical fact that alcoholics almost never recovered on their own resources, and that had been true, apparently, ever since man had first crushed grapes. In AA's pioneering time, none but the most desperate cases could swallow and digest this unpalatable truth. Even these last gaspers often had difficulty in realizing how hopeless they actually were, but few did. And when these laid hold of AA principles with all the forever, which the downing seas life perseveres, they almost invariably got well. That is why the first edition of the book, Alcoholics Anonymous, published when our membership was small, dealt with low bottom cases only. Many less desperate alcoholics tried AA, but did not succeed because they could not make the admission of hopelessness. This is quite an old book, by the way. Maybe that's why I don't understand some of the words, or maybe I'm just really dumb. 1952. It's quite old. Okay. It was obviously necessary to raise the bottom the rest of us had to hit to the point where it would hit them. Hitting rock bottom is where it's at. That's what brings you into the rooms, when you can't take life anymore, when it's just all too much. Find yourself in the rooms and you need to surrender and admit that your life has got there. By going back in our own drinking histories, we could show that years before we realised it were out of control, that our drinking even then was mere habit, that it was indeed the beginning of a fatal progression. To the doubters we could say, perhaps you're not an alcoholic after all. Why don't you try some more controlled drinking? Bearing in mind, meanwhile, that we have told you about alcoholism. So for anyone that comes to AA and they say, I don't know if I'm an alcoholic, the advice is go out and try and have one drink and then go home. If you can't stick at one drink, you have a problem with alcohol. This attitude brought immediate and practical results. It was then discovered that when one alcoholic had planted in the mind of another the true nature of his malady, that person could never be the same again. Following every spree, he would say to himself, maybe those AAs were right. After a few such experiences, often years before the onset of the extreme difficulties, he would return to us convinced he had hit rock bottom as truly as any of us. John Barleycorn himself had become our best advocate. Why all this insistence that every AA must hit rock bottom first? The answer is that few people will sincerely try to practice the AA program, but unless they have hit rock bottom. For practicing AA's remaining 11 steps means the adoption of attitudes and actions that almost no alcoholic who is still drinking can dream of taking. So yeah, another point, you have to be sober to do the 12 steps, otherwise it's pointless. So don't bother if you're still drinking. Who wants to confess his faults to another and make restitution for harm done? Who cares anything about higher power, let alone meditation and prayer? Who wants to sacrifice time and energy to carry AA's message to the next sufferer? No, the average alcoholic, self-centered in the extreme, doesn't care for his prospect, unless he has to do these things in order to stay alive for himself. So yeah, you've got to be desperate, you've got to be wanting to stay alive. Under the lash of alcoholism, we are driven to AA, and there we discover the fatal nature of our situation. Then and only then do we become as open-minded to conviction and as willing to listen as the dying can be. We stand ready to do anything which will lift the merciless obsession from us. I feel so good just to read that out. Just how remembering when I first came into the rooms and I was in denial for the first few months. And when I finally realised that I had a problem with alcohol, something was lifted. And yeah, it's just, it's so liberating. It's liberating. So now I'm going to read from the Little Red Book, but this is quite big. It's as big as my head. It's not little. You're not a little book. Okay. Step 1. Men and women who are allergic to alcohol and who compulsively persist in its use as a beverage eventually become sick from a unique illness. This illness is known to medicine as alcoholism. It is unique in that it adversely affects one physically, mentally, and spiritually. Step 1 briefly portrays the pathetic enigma of uncontrolled drinkers who have acquired this illness over which he is entirely powerless. Drinkers of this type consider alcohol a physical requirement. They gradually increase its consumption at the expense of proper intake of nutritious foods. This practice induces physical and nervous disorders decidedly detrimental to their comfort and health. So when you first do step 1, you're probably in bad health and you might be underweight, you might be overweight. So I think that's what they're talking about here. The study of the step 1 will be largely devoted to the physical illness of alcoholism. Few alcoholics have given their drinking problems much intelligent study. They reluctantly agree that they must quit but keep right on drinking. Severe hangovers make them realize that the physical illness plays a part in their discomfort, but they resort to a little hair of the dog and continue on into a new binge or finally taper off, suffering much physical and mental anguish. The alcoholic lives in compulsive slavery, as alcohol provides the only means he knows by which life is made bearable, or by which he can quiet his jittery nerves. Existence under such circumstances soon makes his life unmanageable. Correction of this condition is a serious problem of immediate concern. Recovery is possible for alcoholics who honestly want to stop drinking. I just want to add that when people have cancer or a terminal illness, people feel sorry for them. And when people are suffering with alcoholism, people can often look at them as failing in life or a waste of space or a bad person. But this is a genuine disease that it kills. So it kills people quickly and aggressively. And I think that people should really see it as a physical illness. It's not that they're a bad person at all. You just have a physical illness. Sorry. So sorry. The founders of Alcoholics Anonymous identified the physical factor as a part of their powerlessness over alcohol. This physical factor was given first consideration in their new recovery program. In 12 simple steps, they outlined a way of life for daily practice that restored them to physical health and contented sobriety. Daily practice was the key to their success. You got to do this every day. Not the whole 12 steps, but you have to work tools of the program every single day. By trial and error, they designed a simple philosophy to arrest alcoholism. It embraced knowledge of many vital facts. Recovery is possible, but a cure cannot be effected. The man or woman who has become an alcoholic cannot become a controlled drinker. They have developed a serious illness against which their lowered physical and mental resistance is powerless. Control over alcohol is gone. Continued drinking now brings only physical illness and insane behavior. They are truly sick people. So this happened to me the last few years of my drinking. It wasn't fun anymore. It was horrible. I didn't like being drunk. It didn't feel good. I was becoming nasty. I was just arguing with people, being really horrible. So yeah, it does stop working, I think, eventually, before you hit rock bottom. So experience has proved that recovery from alcoholism is contingent on 1, having severe desire to stop drinking, 2, admitting and believing in our innermost hearts that we are powerless over alcohol, admit defeat, 3, looking upon alcoholism as a fatal and incurable illness involving the body, mind, and the spirit. 4, considering ourselves as patients in AA for treatment. It's the best treatment ever and it's free. Identifying alcohol as a poison rather than a beverage for us. Just look at it as it's going to kill you if you drink it. Don't touch it. Alcohol is lava. 6, making it our business to understand how alcohol affects us. 7, realizing we are alcoholics. 8, learning, practicing, and having faith in the 12 steps of the AA program. 9, believing we can arrest our alcoholism, but we can never drink normally again. Never again. After you learn these 12 steps as well, there's no going back. You spiritually evolve, and you will try to drink again maybe, but yeah, you're too spiritually far gone. So just be cautious that this is a really powerful thing that you're embarking on if you're new. 10, gaining a layman's knowledge of alcoholism insofar as it affects our health and well-being. 11, using this knowledge and understanding our illness not only to gain sobriety but to guard against the danger of a return to drinking. 12, doing this partially by keeping in our minds a mental picture of the unmanageable life alcohol demands from us and are powerless to over it. So the reason that we keep doing the 12 steps once we're in recovery is to remember how unmanageable we were and where we were at, where we came into the program, because that keeps us sober. Just thinking back to that. The layman's view and understanding of alcoholism are simple ones based on known facts and backed up with his own experiences, plus the knowledge gained from contact with other alcoholics. The following discussion of alcoholism briefly covers the facts necessary to a beginner who will naturally increase his understanding as he makes the Alcoholics Anonymous program a way of life. Nature has provided each normal man and woman with a physical body designed to withstand the rigors of a strenuous daily life. A healthy person can endure great hardships under most unfavorable circumstances as long as he or she receives oxygen, water, balanced nutrition, regular elimination, proper rest and relaxation. The human tendency to retain that spark of life is persistent as long as we do not withhold these requests. When any of these factors is permanently withheld, we set up conditions that nature can no longer endure. Sooner or later, deficiencies occur in our bodies, nervous tension and neurotic conditions are established. Our nervous systems upset mental balance. Wow, that hits home because I'm still really burnt out from my 15 years of drinking and drug use. My nervous system was shattered, still recovering, but so much better. And yeah, obviously so much mental damage and trauma, and lack of rest and diet, just always in a really bad place. The bloodstream and body cells are first affected, then the brain, and we compulsively substitute the poison alcohol for the nutrition necessary for normal health. So that's one of the reasons we can't handle things very well in our life when we're alcoholic, because our bodies just aren't equipped to handle like heartbreak, deaths in the family, loss of jobs. It's so hard when you're alcoholic because you just don't have the capacity really to deal with it emotionally or physically. Friends and relatives are greatly concerned over this change in personality, but not the alcoholic. His personality precludes self-criticism, allowing him but futile adjustment to a normal environment which he is so much at odds. Recovery from alcoholism, the illness which was responsible for our unmanageable lives, can only be accomplished when we stop drinking and return to a permanent, regular, balanced diet that completely eliminates alcohol. There is no shortcut, no substitute, and no other way out for the alcoholic. The importance of this advice cannot be overemphasized. The alcoholic is a sick man. He does not realize it and wishes to minimize his or her physical condition. This should not be allowed by the older members. They should point out the need for a complete physical checkup and see that the new member gets it. So if you're new to AA, you have to go to the doctors. get a physical checkup, get scans, get blood tests, and find a sponsor will help you with that as well. The new member will do well to investigate the various phases of alcoholism that apply to his case. He should admit that he is an alcoholic and discuss his problems with older members or your sponsor who are always willing to offer advice and render help. It's so true. There's online meetings every hour of every day. Everyone wants to help. Step 12 is helping people. So when you're in the program and get to the 12 steps, it's your job now to help other people. So it's going to split this down now into how you recognize it. Summarization. Recovery from alcoholism first involves a layman's knowledge of our illness and a conscious need for its treatment. There is no mystery about it. Addiction to alcohol has set up a toxic poisoning within our physical bodies. Compulsive drinking, over which we are powerless, naturally follows. Our lives have become unmanageable. The first step of recovery is to recognize our alcoholism and admit that we're physically ill. Why does this help? It makes us honest in evaluating our true physical condition. It makes us humble and willing to stop alcoholic rationalization. It awakens us to our need for hospitalization before entering AA and for medical care afterwards. So rehab or hospital is also very commonly something that's necessary at the beginning. So yeah, seek all the help that you need for that as well. Why are we sick? Can we be cured? Real alcoholics are sick from poisoning acquired by substituting alcohol for food and rest. Physical health can be restored, but no cure will permit us to become controlled drinkers. So you can't cure being an alcoholic, but you can cure your mind, body, and spirit, and that's all you need. Treatment. By admitting our alcoholism, willingness to accept medical treatment, personal effort to supplement medical care with proper diet and relaxation, briefly, belief that we can recover, daily practice of our AA program. So if you are overweight or underweight, you might have an addiction with food, potentially. I'm in Food Addicts Anonymous, and even if you're not a food addict, I think it's so helpful to restore your health. You will eat 3 meals a day, and everybody kind of eats the same in the program, and we all support each other, and it's a really nutritious program of vegetable salads and proteins, and it really keeps me on track with the 12 steps. So it's called Food Addicts Anonymous, and you can find the website.org. It's great. Last of all, drugs. Occasionally some of us have restored the drugs for physical comfort or to induce sleep. So this is saying when alcoholics are using diazepams or sleepers, along with it, because I was doing that at one point. I was drinking bottles of wine and diazepam just to get me more drunk. But also when you put down the alcohol, it's advised to not use any form of drug unless your doctor says it's absolutely necessary. But even painkillers, it's kind of like frowned upon a bit in AA. Occasionally some of us have restored to drugs for physical comfort or to induce sleep. This practice is out for all alcoholics, except those rare cases where an ethical medical practitioner skilled in the treatment of alcohol prescribes and supervises such treatment. We live the AA program to develop normal, well-integrated personalities that exclude the use of the narcotic, alcohol, or any other drugs. Drugs prevent this change in personality. They warp our thinking. They too quickly become a substitute for alcohol and are decidly habits. They are deadly habits forming for most of us. That's step 1 from the Little Red Book. And yeah, I was gonna read a passage out of the big book, but I think I might do it as a separate video because I don't want to make the video too long and I don't want to overwhelm anyone who's new. So that's step 1. If you have any questions at all, please put it in the comments. I'm only 18 months sober, but I'm doing the steps for the 3rd time now, and with a sponsor and with other fellows, and I'm based in London if you ever want to come to a meeting with me. And I will put my email down there, so if you want to reach out and speak one-on-one, if you have any questions, please let me know. So there it is, step 1, Alcoholics Anonymous. If you're new to AA, welcome. If you're just refreshing the steps, please let me know if you want me to go in any deeper detail on step 1. Yeah, thank you for listening. I hope you have a wonderful day. Blessings to you. Amen.